Morning, everybody. My name's Dr. Evelyn Singoma. Let us pray. Father, I want to thank you. You are the source of health. You are the source of wisdom. You are the source of everything. I want to thank you for today, King of Glory. Thank you for our minister. Thank you for our top management here in Kyambogo. Thank you for Makerere. Thank you for everybody who is in this workshop, oh God. I want to thank you, Lord, for our vision concerning people with disabilities. And King of Glory, as we continue to gather information here and disseminate this information, we are praying for your guidance. We are praying, King of Glory, that we shall come up with information that will strengthen the training of the disabled people and the entire Uganda, King of Glory. As you use us, strengthen us and guide us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. May we all take our seats. I am very much humbled to welcome you all to the program for the Research Dissemination Workshop on Digital Inclusion for Persons with Disabilities. In our program, we had arrival of guests and registration taking place, which was supposed to take place from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Would have the arrival of the chief guest, which would be followed by the anthems, which have just concluded, a prayer, which has also concluded. We are going into self-introductions, but I am going to humbly ask that I'll read out the guests and we shall stand up in a group for recognition. Amidst us, we have our chief guest, who is none other than the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. So you're most welcome. We have representatives from National Council of Higher Education. Amidst us, it seems they have not yet arrived. We expect representative from Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. If you're here already, please stand up for recognition. I guess they are still on their way. We expect representatives from Ministry of Education. Are you already here? We expect a representative from UCC. I already saw in attendance that he had arrived. May you please stand up for recognition. We also expect representatives from the Parliamentary Committee on Disabilities. We expect representatives from disability support organizations. Cyber School, are you here? Thank you so much for coming. Representative from UNAT. They are not yet here. A representative from NUDIPO. Oh, thank you so much for coming. We expect a representative from UNICEF. Are you here already? We're still waiting for them to come. We expect a representative from UNESCO. If you're here, please stand up for recognition. We expect a representative from Site Savers International. Light for the World. Sense International. Thank you so much for coming. National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, Nodibo. We expect guests from Kyambogo University Management. With us, we have the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance. Professor, you're most welcome. Director, Postgraduate Schools. You're very welcome, Doctor. The Dean, School of Computing and Information Science is here with us. Doctor, you're very most welcome. Director, Quality Assurance. Oh, sister, you're very much welcome. We expect guests from Disability Support Centers. The support center in Must. Oh, thank you so much for coming. We expect one from MOOPS. Oh, thank you so much for coming. Kyambogo University. Very much welcome. Makerere University. You're so much welcome. ICT and e-learning directors of MUST. If you're here with us, you're welcome. MOBS, you're welcome. Kyambogo and Makerere University, you're very welcome. We also expect to have guests from Faculty of Special Needs and Rehabilitation, Kyambogo University. And from that faculty, we expect the Dean, whom I already saw. Dean, Dr. Ajok, you're very much welcome. The heads of department from Faculty of Special Needs and Rehabilitation, welcome. Students representing participants in the study. There were students for hearing impairments. Are you here with us? You're welcome. Those who represent visual impairment, very most welcome. And then we have those who represented the physical impairment. You're so much welcome. I'm meant to inform you that for those who need sign language interpretation, we already have a sign language interpreter here in front of us. So I believe you're benefiting from that. We also have representatives from Sept, the coordinating office. You're so much welcome. We are humbled to have you here. That marks, allow me to introduce our beloved lecturers from the School of Computing. You're so much welcome. And other lecturers from other faculties. You're all so much welcome. I know the list is long. I may not be able to introduce all of you one at a time, but allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to once more welcome you all to this dissemination workshop as we thank God for granting all of us journey mercies to arrive here. In our program, there is a little change in our program. I am going to invite Dr. Dennis Sebogwao, the Dean School of Computing to invite the DVC to open this workshop. Doctor, you're welcome.
Our guest of honor, Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Finance and Administration, Kyambogo University, Professor Justus Kwetegeka, our invited guests, the different representatives from the different institutions and organizations that have been mentioned, colleagues from Kyambogo University, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome our guest of honor, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, who is the Minister of ICT and National Guidance to Kyambogo University. Honorable Minister, we are humbled and privileged to have you in our midst, despite the busy schedule that you have. We've already learned that you are going to be with us for a short time because you have got another appointment somewhere. So we thank you for at least giving us a slot in that busy schedule to come and at least have a word with us as we disseminate our research findings, which are out of the research that was conducted by our staff in the Department of Library and Information Science. Honorable Minister, sir, allow me to give you a brief about our school. We are a School of Computing and Information Science, which is a new school, and it is one of those schools, faculties, and institutes that were set up on the 1st of January 2022. So between 2015 and 2018, we've got about 3 departments. We've got the Department of Computer Science, which gave birth actually to the entire school. Then we also have the Department of Data Science, Networks and Artificial Intelligence, which is a completely new school that started on 1st January 2022. And we also have the Department of Library and Information Science, which originally belonged to the Department of Languages and Communication within the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. Now, due to the similarities in our programs, also when this new school was being set up, top management felt that, we synergize with this department. So that is why it was brought to our new school. Now, within these different departments, we've got a number of programs. So currently, within the Department of Computer Science, we've got the Bachelor of Information Technology and Computing, which is a 3-year program. We also have the Bachelor of Information Science. And we have got a number of new programs that are proposed to start in the near future, including the Master of Computer Science, Master of Information Systems, and also Masters of Applied Technology and Management. Then within the Department of Networks, Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, we've got proposed programs. They have not yet started. I've already mentioned that this is a new department, but we have already designed programs in the area of data science and big data analytics, in the area of computational intelligence, in the area of cybersecurity and digital forensics. So these programs have been designed at both the undergraduate and also postgraduate levels. Then also within the other third department, which is the Department of Library and Information Science, we've got the Bachelor of Library Information Science, which is currently running. But they have also developed new programs, including the Master of Library and Information Science, and also a PhD in Library and Information Science, which we expect to start soon. So, Honorable Minister, we've got a total enrollment of about 975 students at undergraduate level. Then we have got a total of about 19 full staff members with qualifications ranging from master's up to PhD level. So our mandate as a school is to train graduates within the different areas of computing, including computer science, information systems, information technology, software engineering, data science and big data analytics, computational intelligence, cybersecurity, digital forensics, and also in the area of library and information sciences. So that is our mandate as a school. So, Honorable Minister, also allow me to mention that we are here for one reason. The Department of Library and Information Science wrote a proposal which got funding from the Carnegie Foundation. And this funding covered a number of public institutions, Kyambogo University included, but there are sister institutions that are also participating within the Carnegie funding. So the head of Library Information Science, Dr. Robin Namuleme, wrote a proposal that won this funding. So over a period of 2 years, she's been carrying out research about digital inclusion. Now, it was felt that students who have got special needs are somehow marginalized when it comes to services being offered at public institutions, including universities. So she felt that there is a need to find out how our colleagues with special needs, people with disabilities, can also be brought on board so that they don't feel alienated and also marginalized. So she's been working under my mentorship. I've been her mentor because the scholarship required that she selects a mentor. So I've been working with her, and she has published some papers, and we are here because this is going to mark the end of that project. We are reaching the end. So the requirement is that she disseminates the results and the findings to a larger audience. And that is why a number of representatives were invited from institutions and organizations to be part of this dissemination workshop. So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to Kyambogo University in general and to the School of Computing and Information Science in particular. And I believe that you are going to give us the necessary feedback, comments, remarks, and observations so that they can help us to further improve our findings so that our colleagues that have got the special needs, people with the disabilities, can really be helped, and they can always feel at home when, for example, they are at these public institutions. Professor Justus Kweteka, allow me to invite you to come and invite our guest of honor. Professor, you're welcome.
Good morning. Uh, Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Bariomunsi, members of top management present, deans and heads present, invited guests, students, and in a special way, the researcher, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you, Honorable Minister. Thank you for finding time to come to Kyambogo University. Kyambogo University is special in a way. It is the only university that has a faculty of special needs and rehabilitation. And whenever students apply in other institutions, they are always sent to Kyambogo University. This research, which is being disseminated today, was as a result of a project written by Makerere University for early career researchers. It was very competitive, and we got 3 of our staff went through, and one of them is this dissemination we are attending today. It is in computer science, and that's what makes the relevance and the connection to your ministry. The person who won this grant is from computer science and is looking at inclusivity in special needs. I'm told these days we don't use the word special needs, but we use people who are gifted differently. So you have your gift, you also have their gifts. So they are not really special, but we are all special in our ways, in all our ways. For them, they are gifted differently. So, Honorable Minister, before I invite you, I would like also to thank the researcher, and I hope you'll find time to listen to some of the presentations. We have made it in such a way that you first give your remarks, and then after you listen, and you can leave at leisure. But I wish you could listen. But even before you listen, Kyambogo, in its special status, I think we request your ministry and the government at large to look into the special needs faculty. We are really having a challenge with special needs students who come under private sponsorship. For government, we can provide for them from the money we get from government, and we are so grateful. But when a student is sent to Kyambogo under private sponsorship, also needs to be given the same facilities as the government students. But this costs money. For example, they need sign language interpreters, and so on. They need equipment. But this, and we cannot only limit it to government students, especially these extras of transportation, of the people who are pushing their wheelchairs. I don't think we can leave it to the parents as much as they are private students. And it would be very wrong and against the law to put in the application form that indicates whether you are disabled or not. We can't do that. So when they reach here, we assess them. We have a disability support center on our minister, and then we put them in their categories. This is an extra cost to the university, and we really need your support. And when it comes ICT, we don't want to leave our special gifted students behind. And this research really brings out very many salient issues that we really need to attend to as a nation. There was a wide consultation, I think in South Africa and some of these universities in South Africa, and we had a lot of lessons to learn to make sure that our different gifted people are also treated like the others who are also gifted differently. So Chair, or rather, Honorable Minister, we really want to thank the government for, under the wise leadership of President Yoweri Museveni, to really put emphasis on this inclusivity at all levels. I really don't want to call it disadvantaged groups, no. For people who are different from us, for people who were previously marginalized, this government has really brought them on board, and we see it in gender, and we wish also disability would be part of the budgeting process, like the way gender is. Because every time we are budgeting, they say you have to engender the budget. We also feel that the special needs should also be part of our budgeting process at every level. Uh, Honorable Minister, as I declare this workshop open, and with those few opening remarks, I really want also to bring greetings from the Vice Chancellor, who is on other duties, and I'm here representing the Vice Chancellor. And with those few remarks, may I invite the Honorable Minister to give us his remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, for those remarks. Let me also appreciate Dr. Dennis Sebwao, who earlier spoke to us, distinguished academics, members of the Kyambogo University family, students, ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities. Good morning. Let me start by introducing myself, because maybe some of you may be interacting with me for the first time. My name is Chris Bariomunsi. I am the minister in charge of ICT and national guidance, and the member of parliament from Kanungu. I represent Chinchizi East constituency in Kanungu. And for those of you who belong to the Yellow Party, I can see many of you look yellowish. I am the vice chair for NRM Western Uganda. I am very happy to be here this morning, and I will at the outset request you to pardon me, because from the program I should have been here with you for a longer period so that I listen to the findings and participate in the discussions so that I can fully absorb the lessons that I should pick as somebody representing government. But unfortunately, I have a very tight schedule. At 11, I am supposed to be a keynote speaker at some other event. But I didn't want to disappoint you, because it's not my habit to disappoint people who invite me, unless if it becomes inevitable. Because before I went to politics, I also used it to be part of the academic world, because I was a lecturer at Makerere, so I know what goes on in the academic field, and therefore I beg that you allow me that even when I spend short time here, you understand that it is the demands of work. But I will make sure that I later on get in touch with the Deputy Vice Chancellor and maybe Dr. Robin and Namleme, but also I will leave arrangements for issues to be captured, that even when I am physically absent, I will still get to know, especially the tasks which I should take on as a minister. In any case, the presenters who have just been here, our leaders, have already highlighted and raised some of the issues which we need to take on as government. I would like to express my appreciation to the leadership of the university for inviting me to be here. As I have introduced myself, I am the minister in charge of ICT. ICT ministry is the one charged with the responsibility of driving the digital transformation agenda in this country. I usually tell my audiences that the future is digital when you look at where we are. I am therefore the minister in charge of your future. So I am happy to be here this morning to be discussing a very important topic of ICT and digital inclusion and ensuring that everybody, including persons with disabilities, or as you have correctly described the new terminology, person is gifted differently. That's a new term that I have learned. They should be part and parcel of this digital revolution. They shouldn't be left behind. So thank you very much for inviting me. Secondly, let me appreciate and thank you as Kyambogo University for being the leader in the area of special needs and rehabilitation. I know for a long time, even before you became Kyambogo University, there was a college, and we knew that Kyambogo is a specialized educational institution when it comes to special needs and rehabilitation services, and you have continued to remain a leader. I can now feel that even the area of digital transformation, you continue to lead as others follow. So I would like to appreciate you for the tremendous work that you do. You may not see us appreciating you, but back there where we are, we quietly appreciate your services, your dedication, your commitment, and all that you do. Because we know many people in Uganda and outside have passed through your hands, especially when it comes to training and capacity building in the area of special needs and rehabilitation. So I would like, on behalf of the government of Uganda, to appreciate you for the good work. And it's because of that that when you invite us, we come. If we had issues with you, if we were not appreciating, probably we would find reason not to come. But I make sure that even if I am here for 30 minutes, I come to show respect and also uh, assure you that we support you and we appreciate the good work that you do as a university. And as we interact through these sessions, maybe we should explore how better we can strengthen our partnerships, particularly as a ministry for ICT and as government. Indeed, the Dean outlined the many programs that you offer and also the programs you have designed to start teaching. I was impressed. And I will find the time, come and maybe we discuss further and see the kind of collaboration that we can have as a ministry which is responsible for digital transformation, and you, the academic institution that has found it fit to really introduce these many courses that are extremely relevant for our today's situation. So I pledge that I will find the time and we engage as I come with my technocrats in the ministry. We engage with the school and the department and see how we can collaborate further. In the letter by the Deputy Vice Chancellor that was inviting me, for instance, you indicated that you intend to establish a multimedia laboratory. It was the letter. It captured my attention and persuaded me that as a government, as a ministry, we need to work with Kyambogo University to see how some of these resources and facilities can be supported. So I am here to give you that assurance that we fully appreciate Kyambogo University and are ready to strengthen our partnership, to work with you to see how we can go to greater heights. Let me also appreciate the researcher, although we are yet to receive the findings and the lessons, but we can still chemically feel what the findings look like. And I think the point being demonstrated is that we are in a digital revolution. And where we are, we cannot run away from being part of that revolution. You know, there are people who sometimes want to be defiant. I had a friend of mine, when mobile phones came, he said, "May I will not buy a mobile phone." I said, "Why?" We were working together in an office, in the UN office. I would just use the landline. But then people would call, then he would say, "Help me with your phone, I call somebody." He, but time came, he said, "I have given up. I have to also buy a mobile phone and communicate like others." So similarly, you may want to hide your head in the sand and say, the digital revolution, these technologies are maybe for some other people. But it is now inevitable. It's an imperative that we have to be part and parcel of this digital revolution, because it's now technology that is driving socio-economic development all over the world. The unfortunate bit is that we've been undergoing these revolutions, what we call the industrial revolutions, and now we speak of the fourth industrial revolution. It's meaning we have had the first, the second, the third, now the fourth. But the challenge with us in the developing world, especially the sub-Saharan Africa, that we always lag behind, and these revolutions leave us behind, and we try to catch up with the rest of the world. Today we speak of the fourth industrial revolution, where there are many cutting-edge technologies that are coming on board: artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, nanotechnology, blockchain technology, and other cryptogenic technologies, very many disruptive technologies. But where is the place of Africa in terms of adopting and embracing and integrating these new technologies? When you look at how the world is shaped now, there is a huge digital divide between the global north and the global south. Even within the context of south-south, you will find countries like in the Asian world, Japan, South Korea, China, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, they are much ahead in terms of technological development compared to us in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a lot of work to do to bridge and narrow that gap, that divide, but also challenge ourselves as Africans, as African scholars, to invest in innovation and be able to also move and catch up with the rest of the world. So researches and studies like this, investigation like this, are very energizing to see that the universities are not seated, but you are investing in research, you are investing in innovation, you are investing in investigating all these issues so that we generate new knowledge, which knowledge will help us transform our society. And therefore, government is happy. I am particularly happy as the Minister for ICT with this work being done here at Kyambogo University. And I want to salute the researcher and the entire team that worked with her to carry out this research. So we cannot run away from technology today. Technology. And the major point being highlighted today is that the persons with the disability, the persons gifted differently, have to be part of this agenda, the digital revolution. We cannot just come up with these digital tools and resources and leave away any section of society. As the NRM government, we believe and support inclusivity. And indeed, when you read the constitution, the way it was framed, it heavily supports the issue of inclusion and participation. That's why even when it comes to issues of governance, specifically provisions were put in the constitution that ensure that different sections of our people are represented in the governance structures. Like persons with disability have special seats in parliament, district councils, and other lower level councils, as well as other groups like women, young people, workers, older persons. All this. This is a question of inclusion because all of us are Ugandans, all of us are children of the same God, and therefore all of us must have access to opportunities that are available. And therefore, this research is very instructive to us who are driving the digital transformation agenda, that inclusivity must be a cardinal point that we must appreciate. At the Ministry of ICT, we are doing everything possible to ensure that Uganda becomes part of that journey of the digital revolution. And we appreciate the role being played by universities and other teaching institutions. We have a digital transformation roadmap that guides us, that clearly defines where we want to be in the near future. And through that roadmap, and strategic plan, we are addressing different interventions, including issues of digital infrastructure, including issues of capacity building for Ugandans to appreciate these technologies, addressing issues of cybersecurity and others, addressing issues of how to apply technology to create employment opportunities, especially for our young people. The other day, we presented in the cabinet a policy on BPOs, business process outsourcing, because one of the challenges we have in this country is that we have many young people. When you look at the demographics of this country, the young people constitute the biggest percentage of our population. And we have expanded the education space where many of them access university and tertiary education. But when they leave university, the challenge they face is access to decent job opportunities. And as a ministry, we are now doing everything possible to see how to use technology to create employment for our young people. And business process outsourcing is one area that can be used to create jobs. And we passed this policy. So there are many things which we are spearheading, and we need to work closely with universities like Kyambogo University to see that we make a quantum leap into the future of this country. So the issues you have raised, like the issues of the laboratory, the issues of the private students who are admitted here and are gifted differently, to use the new terminology, they're saying they have a challenge, while those who are sponsored by government may have some facilitation from government, but those who are privately sponsored find challenges. And I think this is a cardinal point which I pick because we know many of us come from humble backgrounds, and some of the assistive technologies and supportive technologies we may need may be costly for our parents and guardians. So it's an issue which we take note of, and I think we shall continue to discuss it with the university and see ways how government should be able to come in, because the government is there for everybody. Even when you are privately sponsored, you are still a government student because you are a Ugandan, and therefore government must find a way how we can support such students. And I will discuss this with the minister in charge of disability, who resides in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. We need to cause this discussion in the cabinet. As we budget, as we plan, we must accommodate some of these lessons into the planning and budgeting framework of government. So I look forward to the recommendations from these findings, and I will leave a mechanism here, capture the notes for me, but I will still formally link with the management and the researcher so that I pick the issues, especially those which are for government, and then I will take them up in the ministry, but also where need be and necessary to cabinet for necessary action, so that the research and the research findings are not in vain. Actually, one of the challenges we have in Uganda, as I conclude my remarks, is that you do a lot of work as researchers, as academicians. But most often, from my observation, is that the umbilical cord between you, the researchers, and the university academicians, and us, the policymakers, maybe that umbilical cord doesn't have blood. You carry out research, come up with very strong observations and the conclusions and recommendations, but I'm not quite sure whether all those reach to us who sit in policy making organs, in parliament, in the cabinet, and many other spaces where we sit, so that we use those findings to inform policy. If I was to ask you, how satisfied are you? Are you in terms of the researches that are done by the studies which are done by you, the students, the scholars, the professors? How do your findings reach and inform policy formulation in the country? What percentage would you give it? If I would, if you say 100%, then I would just go and relax and sit and say that's good. But I think there's still a gap. So we need to, because universities are think tanks, you generate a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge should be able to inform us, we who sit in these policy making organs, so that we make quality policies, quality decisions, evidence based solutions for the country's problems. So let me pledge to be part of that umbilical cord, that bridge that connects the universities, the research institutions like universities like Kyambogo and the government, so that findings like these should not just go in the library and settle there. They should be able to inform us. And I'm sure that's why you invited me as a government minister to pick these issues, so that eventually they find themselves on the floor of parliament, on the floor of cabinet, the president, and us who are in these decision making uh, platforms for the findings to make meaning for our country. So I thank you very much. I am happy to be part of this discussion this morning. I will listen in to the next maybe few minutes, and you will pardon me if I leave early. But like I have said, I will make arrangements to make sure that I will be as if I was here throughout up to the end. I will not miss anything from the discussion. Thank you very much. May God bless all of you.
A very big round of applause once more for the Honorable Minister. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister for ICT. At this moment, I am going to humbly invite the researcher to give an overview of the project. Dr. Robina, you are most welcome to give the overview of the project.
The Honorable Minister, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration, the Dean, School of Computing, other deans here present, heads of departments, our distinguished guests from different disability support organizations, students that participated in the study, and other students with disabilities, academic staff from all other university departments and schools and faculties. I'm really humbled to see this big group of you coming to witness this important event where we disseminate research findings on digital inclusion and assistive technology adoption and application for teaching, learning, and research. This is a study that is very passionate in my heart because it touches a very important segment of Ugandans. You may wonder why disability research? As a researcher, I found that diversity and inclusion is part of life, and universities must have that diversity in them. So if I'm in the university as a person with disability, I must access and work as any other student. And so as I was looking at the inclusion that is being, the efforts that have been put on inclusion, there's been a lot of effort on developing ramps, making sure toilets are supportive, making sure there are walkways. That is good enough. But as the Honourable Minister has mentioned, we cannot stop at developing ramps. We cannot stop at developing toilets, but we need to go and have an inclusive learning environment for both students and academic staff. This is why this study focused on persons with disabilities, but not only students, but staff as well. Because we thought that the challenge is not only for students, but also working in the digital spaces is challenging for persons with disabilities. So, sorry about that. So because of that, this study, I would say, was a 360 degrees study because we had academic staff with disabilities to participate. We had persons who are in charge of disability support centers to participate. Then we had students also participating. We had directors of ICT also participating so that we can really understand holistically how is inclusion happening in these universities. And what we so the study focused mainly on this and then looked at how inclusive are we as universities. This was the biggest challenge. And we also looked at the needs first because initially we had issues. Do we really know the needs of persons with disabilities? So one of the first questions that we asked ourselves is how can we know the needs? So one of the things that has come out strongly is that we have really put together all the needs of persons with hearing impairment, both reading needs, assistive technology needs, and also equipment needs, so that when one is planning, they'll be able to know this is what I need to put in place for me to be inclusive. We also looked at accessibility capacities in our universities. How is the library accessible? How is the online learning platform accessible? How can I access my portal as a student with disabilities? Can I be able to check my own marks? So when we looked at all these, we discovered a number of barriers to accessibility in this research, which as the minister is we have to spend a little time, but I'll give details in the bigger presentation. We discovered that there's a big mismatch between the needs of persons with disabilities and what universities can offer. I'll give a case in point where an institution has around maybe 240 students, but has 3 desktop computers, And this is one of the universities, which is the core, which is the center, where everybody thinks I need to go there because they have facilities. So it means that the capacity and the needs are really far apart. And that means that this is causing exclusion as far as digital inclusion is concerned. Then secondly, we also found out that there are a number of barriers, very many barriers. But one of the biggest barriers is the cost of technology, assistive technologies, because the developers of these systems can sell if they are selling in big numbers. You know what I mean? So the cost, those of you who did economics know that when you have a bigger market, then you can be able to manage the price, isn't it? But because there are very few people who need these specialized technologies, a piece of equipment can cost 40 million shillings, one piece of equipment, meaning that the government needs to come in and assist. Like when I was looking at the issues of cost, we discovered that the only way the universities can be able to match the needs of the students is when the ministry can help us to establish this multimedia technological lab for persons with disabilities. And this multimedia lab will be set up in a way that it's going to be linked to online learning platforms, that when users can be able to access resources, they can work from this university, because we can set the university to be the hub. Initially, for instance, we can call it a center of excellence, whereby disability inclusion starts from here, but then it can cascade. So with that multimedia lab, we can have a studio where one can sign in their lecture, and that lecture can go online for other people to attend an online lecture, but who are deaf, and they can follow that lecture. Likewise, we can have it really equipped in a way that we can have all the technologies that we need to support persons with low vision, persons that have dyslexia, persons who are slow in writing, because the number of persons with disabilities is quite immense. So we also have another recommendation, Honorable Minister. When reviewing literature about the policy that guides the implementation of disability issues in this country, we discovered that the policy leaves a lot of room for interpretation for people to be able to do so you don't really know what technologies should I have here. The law is so packed that it's not unpacked for people to understand what to get and how to implement it, which is why many institutions have talked about the challenge of lack of implementation, that the policies are in place, but the implementation is quite low because the law is quite complex, I would say, and is not so inclusive. It has many things. It talks about assistive technologies, but doesn't really, because of not having no guidelines on how this can be implemented, the implementation is quite complex. So this research is recommending that at least there must be a review of this policy, especially as we are moving into the digital revolution, because we know it has been amended in 2020, but technology changes so fast. So a review to this policy is very important and urgent to ensure that the new things, the urgent needs of persons with disabilities can be incorporated in the law. And the third recommendation that we have is the issue of monitoring. One of the things that I picked leaf from is the way the National Council of Higher Education enforces many of the standards in the university. how I wish we can have similar standards to Safa University, because the law says that you cannot discriminate someone and not admit them because they have a disability, isn't it? For that reason, there must be an enforcement mechanism. If I want to do a program which is not in Kyambogo, the university must be forced by law to have these systems and then admit me. So we are recommending that there must be a monitoring mechanism to ensure that the law can be enforced. So not only the revision of the law, but also the enforcement. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you very much for honoring our invitation, and we pray and we thank you for the commitment to continue working with us. Thank you very much. I submit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robina, for that overview. I am going to humbly request that before our Honorable Minister leaves, we have a group photo for memories. Thank you so much. And I am humbly asking the management of Kyambogo University, the deans around, the heads of department, check up Makerere University representatives, MAST, MOPS, Cyber School, and representatives from disability support organizations to join us in the group photo. You're welcome. We shall have it out here. Please.
Like first night together, first kiss. It's getting better, baby. Still holding on. You're still the one. First time our eyes met, same feeling that I get. Stop loving me. Don't deny me. This pain I'm going through. Please forgive me. Just like I do. Please believe the truth. Please forgive me. I can't stop loving you. Still feels like our best times together. Feels like the first touch. We're still getting closer, baby. Can't get closer now. Still holding on. Still number one. I remember the smell of your skin. I remember everything. I remember all the moves. I remember you, yeah. I remember You know I still do. So if you're feeling down, you're to please forgive me. Can't stop loving you. Don't deny me. This pain I'm going through. Please forgive me. If I need you like I do. I realize it's true. Forgive me. I can't stop loving you. I please forgive me. I don't know what I do. Please forgive me. Can't stop loving you. Don't deny me. Straight up, please forgive me like I do. Baby, can't stop loving you. Can't stop loving you.
I thank you very much for honoring our invitation to come to this dissemination workshop. We gave a brief overview of the findings, but because we say the main reason why we are here is the full dissemination of work of the findings. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to start to present the findings of the research. And even as I present, this is just a snapshot because there's a lot of data. But what I'm going to present is still going to be representative of what digital inclusion looks like within the public universities in Uganda. So that is the outline that I'm going to follow. And when I finish that, then I'll stop. We've heard from the minister about the issue of digital transformation. And we're saying that technological advancements are really making life different from the kind of life that we've had in the past. And therefore, we cannot in any way ignore digital technologies. So, for persons with disabilities, the digital technologies bring possibility. While for people who are able-bodied, it makes life easy. So let's have those two words in mind. It brings possibility, meaning that there are things that are not possible, isn't it? But digital technologies can bring possibility for persons with disabilities, but they make life easy for people without disabilities, which means that persons with disabilities need these technologies a lot more than we even need them, which is the reason why this is very important for us to think about. We want to draw to your attention the statistics. And as research shows, 1.3 billion people worldwide experience some form of disability. And 80% of these live in the developing world, meaning that this is an issue that really concerns us because we live in the developing world, don't we? And getting home in Uganda, the Bureau of Statistics, as of 2016, reported 4.5 million people having a disability. One of the things that we noted as we were doing this research is the issue of data and statistics about persons with disability. As you can see, 2016 is really far away. So if it is reporting 4.5, then mathematicians can extrapolate this figure and maybe give us the real figure. But this gives us an indication that a big portion of Ugandans have a form of disability. And of these, women constitute 15% and 10% by men. And it is higher in rural areas than in urban areas. So when we live in the city here and we satisfy ourselves that there is no disability, these statistics are showing that even in rural areas where we've not taken time to investigate what's happening, they have a higher prevalence of persons with disabilities. And what is a disability? Because we talk about these things, it's good to know them. What is a disability? It is that substantial functional limitation that can limit you from doing physical, mental, and it may result from an environmental issue. It may result from an illness, but hindering you from engaging in life as another person would have. And that's what we call a disability. Then who are persons with disabilities? Those are people who have long-term physical, mental, and intellectual or sensory impairments. Meaning that if I was moving and I sprained my leg, I don't qualify to be a person with what? With disability. It must be long-term. And it affects you and hinders your effective participation in active society activities. So what are assistive technologies? Assistive technologies are those apparatuses, equipment, devices, systems, and services. So they don't have to be tangible, that help persons with disabilities to carry out tasks that would otherwise be unattainable. For instance, if you gave a computer to a person with disability without jaws, someone who is blind, they wouldn't be able to read. If you presented a video without captions, a person who is deaf will not be able to do what? To follow what is in the video. So meaning that it could be an apparatus, it could be a service, it could be a system, but all these help the people to attain and perform tasks that they would otherwise not be able to perform. Then what is inclusion? Digital inclusion, sorry. And it's not just general inclusion, but digital inclusion. This is the ability of people to use and access information and communication technologies. And it encompasses so many things: access to the internet, availability of affordable equipment, broadband, internet-enabled devices. All this becomes digital inclusion. And when this is missing, then we say there is digital exclusion. So, although digital inclusion needs are different, there are those digital inclusion aspects which cut across. Because I was talking about a person who is blind, as they will need JAWS, a person who is deaf, they may need captioning, but there are those needs, or there are those equipment that are, or services which cut across, that when you are planning, you need to ensure that those are available. The first one is the high-speed infrastructure, which carries the internet and helps individuals to connect to communities and institutions. Then we have also we have also the ability to remove barriers for accessibility, but that is a digital inclusion need. Because if you don't remove barriers for accessibility, it means that people will not be able to be able to access the technology and use technology. And this accessibility is not for its own sake. In the context of this study, it is to support teaching, learning, and research. So if you have high-speed internet, if you're removing barriers, if you're providing options for people who cannot afford, because we know that there are people who cannot afford these technologies. So there is need for us to provide options, not to assume that everybody who comes to the university can be able to be included. So these digital inclusion needs should be taken into account because they are important and they cut across all different kinds of disabilities. And we want to look at the legal framework because we don't want to talk about things which don't have the backing of the law. The Convention of Human Rights, the UN Convention for Persons with Disabilities, mandates states to ensure that they remove all barriers to accessibility. Also, this article here of the Ugandan Disability Act mandates that all universities do provide accessibility to students. In fact, the law as amended in 2020 suggests that when you admit students in the first 3 months, you must make adjustments to ensure that you accommodate them inclusively. So it means that these are things that we may not be taking into account, but the law demands that these things be done. But as I said when I was presenting my brief remarks, there is an issue that the law is so, I would say, amorphous sort of, that people have prerogative to do or not to do because there is no enforcing mechanism. So it means that these things need to be enforced to ensure that when you admit students, what are we able to do? How many have we admitted who are blind? How many are deaf? How many have dyslexia? How many have slow learners? How many have learning disabilities? Then you have to put into account the needs for all those people and then take care of them. The law also demands that you do not discriminate against any student. I talked about this, and I'm just echoing it. If I'm a student with a disability and I want to do engineering, the university must put in place mechanisms for me because the law demands that this be done, which is why I say there must be a mechanism to enforce this law. Of course, in other parts of the law are a bit silent, are a bit hard to follow, but there are things that are quite clear and easy to follow. I'll go quickly to the problem statement, and it's looking at the issue of exclusion, which is happening despite the law. I've given you the law, I've talked about the law and how it is demanding that these things be done. But persons with disabilities find themselves in these difficult situations whereby sometimes they do not have, someone needs a helper. For instance, if someone is, I'll just give you a scenario for you to really follow this clearly. If I'm blind and I've been using my laptop or computer and the power goes off, you know what it takes for me to be able to switch on again and be able to work well? I need someone to help me, isn't it? But most of the time, I'll be there as a student or an academic staff with no person to support me. So it means that I'm being excluded despite the law. So there is a law which says do this, do the other, but the enforcement is quite weak. And also, which brings a big digital gap as observed by the UN in 2020. So I want also to talk about the issue of online learning and teaching, because this study had academic staff and students. Just cast your mind 2 years ago. Just think about it. How the COVID struck, and you're asked to start managing classes, putting courses online, teaching students, uploading marks, because I could be a head of department and I'm blind, isn't it? How easy was it, even for us who are not blind, who are not deaf, who are not slow learners, who do not have one hand, because there are people who have only one hand, there's those who don't have any hand, but they're supposed to use technology to teach, they're supposed to use technology to learn, they're supposed to use technology to do everything, isn't it? So we see that a study that was done by Ruire pointed out the difficulties that persons with disabilities experienced, without disabilities experienced. You can imagine that was a concern. And research was done to show how lecturers without disabilities struggled to run classes online. But there was no attention paid to how our counterparts managed to teach in this time. And because online learning and research has come here to stay, we cannot overemphasize the need for digital inclusion of persons with disabilities. And another important aspect in this problem statement is the fact that at least there's been research in the developed world about digital inclusion, a little bit of it, but not so much exists in the developing world, which makes this study quite important. So, for purposes of dissemination, we are going to focus on mainly 3 objectives. So the first one looked at the identification of the digital inclusion and assistive technology needs of academic staff and students with disabilities for their academic engagement and independent learning. Because you want to do your things independently. You don't want to be asking people to assist you all the time, do you? But sometimes because of issues of lack of accessibility, we end up having to ask. So this became one of our first major objectives. What digital inclusion needs do these people have? Then the second objective was to establish the degree to which universities facilitate accessibility, adoption, and application of technologies for learning, teaching, and research. And then the third one was to examine the barriers to accessibility, adoption, and application of assistive technologies for learning and research. This study adopted a mixed methods approach, but with a special emphasis on emancipatory research, because this perspective was quite relevant for us, because it helped us to do research not about persons with disabilities, but with persons with disabilities, which is why you see a big group of this team here, and I know they are going to give us a lot of feedback and a lot of inputs even after this dissemination. So the study was done with persons with disabilities, not about persons with disabilities. Not the difference. So, and we really had these clear questions that guided us as we're doing this research. One of the things that we really paid attention to, because emancipatory research demands that we do this. So the question that we had to really pay attention to is that, is the research agenda based on the social models of disability? Does the researcher commit to the person's disability self-empowerment? Will the research contribute to the removal of discipline barriers? And will the research give the voice to both the individuals to share their experiences? And with the choice of methodology be one that meets the needs of persons with disabilities, we try to adhere to all these. And we had our data collection methods as the questionnaire and interviews, and also documentary review. I've been talking about policies a lot, and these are the main documents that we reviewed and reports. To also go into details into data collection instruments, we use the 3 semi-structured questionnaires and the 3 interview guides, because first and foremost, we wanted persons with disabilities to rate things and to respond to things where we had answers provided. But then we also requested them to give them their in-depth opinions on things that we're trying to ask about. So this helped us to get rich data on what persons with disabilities experience when it comes to digital inclusion for teaching, learning, and research. So why 3 semi-structured questionnaires and interviews? Because persons with disabilities have unique needs. We had an instrument for students, but there was a special section for those with the visual impairment, a section for those with the physical impairment, and a section for those with the physical hearing impairment, sorry. Then we had another instrument for academic staff, because we thought academic staff might have maybe higher level needs than students, or may have other issues they may want to share with us. So we had another instrument which was designed specifically for academic staff. And then we had one for stakeholders who support teaching, learning, and research. And these mainly included directors of disability unit services, directors of IT, e-learning managers, university librarians, and reference librarians. These participated in the study and shared their experiences of how they support inclusion of persons with disabilities. And we did use purposive and snowballing sampling techniques, and we used Morgan's table to be able to determine the number of students that can participate. Because we had 2 sets of data, we used SPSS for the quantitative data, and then we used thematic analysis for qualitative data. Because this study was tackling a very sensitive segment of the population, we had to obtain ethical approval, which was granted on 28th July 2023, and this is when we started doing the research. A total of 111 participants took part in the study. We had 87 students with disabilities, 4 academic staff with disabilities, and then we had 20 stakeholders in total. I'll go quickly to the findings, and the findings are presented under 3 main subsections. We have a section which presents the needs as identified by persons with disabilities. And as I present, you'll notice that I'll present according to the different disabilities because of the unique needs. And then we have an issue that looks at the rating of accessibility, because the second objective was focusing on accessibility. And then the third one is going to focus on the barriers to accessibility. In the presentation of findings, we also give verbatim quotations to sort of bring out the voices of people who participated in this study. I'll start with the descriptive, with the tables which present this, and then I'll end with the voices. So one of the first aspect that was looked at was the needs for people with visual impairment. And as I talked in the beginning, I said there are those needs which are universal, which all people need, persons with disabilities need. And this is one of them, whereby all of them needed a website which is accessible, wireless connection, and also high-speed internet. Pardon me for that other one. So they also had reading technology needs, because people with visual impairment would have different needs for reading compared to the blind, for persons who are deaf or persons who have low vision. So we have those needs as presented, and as you can see, there were those needs which are really high, with very high percentages, to show that these are things that institutions must put in place if they are to support learners with visual impairment. Another sorry. Pardon me, the laptop is not moving. Okay, yeah, we also have equipment needs, but for persons with visual impairment, because if we mix up all the needs, then we end up having an issue. So we have sorted and filtered based on the instruments those needs for persons with visual impairment. And you have needs that have been listed there. I don't want to bore you by reading one by one, and which is why I use the visual representation for us to be able to see the magnitude of need that these students have. For instance, you have, out of the equipment, the highest that is needed is a personal computer. But for them, they even add other things. Like they want a computer with a good sound card. Because it's not about having a computer, but a computer where you connect JAWS and then it talks back to you, isn't it? So it means that the needs are quite unique and very important, and have to be taken into account and really thought about passionately. They also have service needs. And when we're looking at the service needs, we ask them, to what extent do you need these things? So they would say rarely needed, sometimes needed, often needed, not needed. But as you can see on all these services, there is no service where they said it's not needed. The lowest service is not needed, but it's a very small percentage, meaning that these people need digital assistive technologies. They need access to e-resources and databases. They need training on how to use these technologies. The last one was assistive technology support. Like if my machine breaks down, if my machine cannot work, who can help me to fix it? And then we have needs for people with physical impairment. And those needs are also very, very important to them, which is why they have been separated. And as you can see from the presentation, they have high needs also for smartphones and also personal computers, meaning that when we are really setting up this multimedia lab, there are things that cannot miss, isn't it? Meaning that these are things that must be available for these people to be able to function well, not undermining the other needs, but it's important that we look at them in their order of rating and then ensure that at least we set up an order of priority and make these technologies available. Persons with physical impairment also have service needs. They're not so different from those with persons with visual impairment. But it's very important that these service needs do be taken into account, because if not taken into account, it means that if my machine breaks down, I cannot use it. But does the ICT know of these needs? And does the ICT have the competence to support these people? All these are things that need to be addressed to be able to support persons with physical impairment. Then we have the ICT needs for persons with hearing impairment. As I said in the beginning, these needs are unique and have to be taken into account differently. But we can see that they also have an urgent need for high access to high-speed internet. I'll stop a little bit here and talk about high-speed internet. I had an experience to speak to the lecturer who is deaf and teaches deaf students. And he was explaining about the issue of teaching sign language. When you're teaching sign language, people must also sign back to know that they have learned. It's like when you're teaching English, you have taught a certain vocabulary and you want people to write and maybe write paragraphs to tell you this is what we've understood. Are we together? Meaning that these students must sign back and send the signed recorded video to show, if I'm greeting, this is what I do. If I am unhappy, this is how I do it. So it means that this person needs a computer with good space, needs a computer with good internet. If he's teaching 50 students, do you know how many videos he has received? 50. And then he has to edit, check those videos and send them back. It means that this person needs internet, which is working well. He needs a computer which is not like these other Lenovo computers. The space is almost zero. It means that these needs are very, very important. And as I talk about the extracts which talk about their experience, I'll talk a little bit about this. But I'm saying that these needs are quite important than we can ever imagine. We also expressed a need for sign language generating devices, because you find that sometimes getting sign language interpreters is not very easy. But if you have a device which can generate text into sign language, and then I can be able to read it and I can be able to follow, then it becomes a lot easier for me. They have issues with I'm hard of hearing, meaning I have less, I'm able to hear but not so much. Can I have that equipment to assist me to amplify what you speak and I hear? These are things that are important and necessary. But as we go along, as I present, you see that most of these, especially for persons with hearing impairment, are non-existent even in Kyambogo University. Because Kyambogo University has placed a very high emphasis on visual impairment, and so the other impairments also have a different a difficulty in accessing and using the resources. Persons with the hearing impairment also have a need for so many applications. Why so many applications? One needs an application. If you have a phone, you need an alerting device to tell you you have got a what? You have got a message. You need a device to assist you if you are somewhere in the class and maybe a message comes. Or if I'm totally deaf, I'm talking about someone totally deaf. They would need devices which can help them to function well. And there are many applications that are available and support that kind of service. So I want to talk about digital inclusion needs as talked about by students, because I was just showing you graphs and things like that. Someone said, as a student with hearing impairment, I would be grateful to acquire digital hearing aids with an iPhone because it works better with them. This is something I want us to note, that not every phone can support the kind of the kind of needs of persons with disabilities. So it means that, yes, you may find that this person has a phone, but it can't meet their needs. If someone is blind and is totally blind, they would need an iPhone because it has an application called Siri, which can communicate to them, where they can say, Siri, can you please put on my data? Siri will put it on. Siri, can you turn off my data? Siri will do that. So it means that not every phone will be able to do that. So this person says that I would like to have a personal computer and conduct e-learning in progress and progress in my what? In my academics. Someone would ask you, how did you get the quotation from a person who is deaf? Yes, we always worked with personal assistants, with sign language interpreters to ensure that we do communicate well. So we are saying that there are other quotations which also are here and are very important, because we discovered there are many service gaps as we were doing the analysis. So one of the service gap was highlighted by one stakeholder who said that we think ICT Directorate is not taking into account adapted technology needs. Sometimes they digitize the university without taking into account the adaptive and assistive technology of students with disabilities. We've talked about the changing technology. The platform the system the portal has been changed. The e-learning platform has been changed. But to what extent are persons with disabilities taken into account? I had an opportunity to travel to South Africa and witness digital inclusion there. They make sure there is a person who is, for instance, if a person who is who is visually impaired, who is deaf, and who has a complex physical impairment, to check the systems. For instance, if there is an online form they are designing, this person checks it to see its functionality. If it is missing some aspects, if it cannot work, then they'll give them feedback, and then they can change. They can adapt to their needs. But sometimes what happens here, one of the participants said that ICT people think that they know our needs, but actually they do not know what we need. That was one of the participants. So one of the things I want also to plead with the ICT people who are here, I hope they are still here, that let's involve these people when we design systems, because they are able to check. For instance, if you are designing an online form, they can see, can it be read by JAWS? If you have a video that you've put online, does it have captions? If you are designing a document, is the background color matching with the text to be sure that someone with low vision can read? Those things that look simple and subtle, but very detrimental if not done. So, I want to continue quickly. One of the inclusion gaps that was also talked about in a verbatim quote was, he said, so far, I have got no digital competencies. It is the whole university. It is the whole university. I just speak the way it is. You may find that we students with disabilities are always given less access to e-learning, though we use the same computers to learn the same things. Meaning that these students are feeling that they are not given what actually should be given to them. This slide here was trying to look at how persons with disabilities rated the accessibility to infrastructure, to services, and also assistive technologies. I'm sorry it's quite small, but I'll just lead you through. So we had to collect all of them to try and get an idea of what they think. But as you see, many of them strongly disagreed when it came to how the university provided and identified their digital literacy needs, how the university supported them. So it means that this is an area that needs to be addressed to ensure that this rating can increase, can change, so that when someone is asked, have they come to find about what your digital inclusion needs are? Have they been able to assess what you need, what kind of training you need? Have they given you this? so that we can have better rating in what? In future. The stakeholders were also asked to rate their thinking of how they rate, they support persons with disabilities. And you find that their rating is not so different from the students. For instance, this person said that I serve 241 students, but I have 3 desktop computers, 2 blue taps for braille transcription, CCTVs, which are used by learners who are legally blind, those with low vision, those with dyslexia, and also staff who want to mark exams and want to enlarge students' handwritings. So you can imagine this person. Imagine you're managing this facility and you have these so many people and you have these so few facilities. So then others rated the library services and said, in our library, we do not have a braille. This was a stakeholder who was a librarian. He said, in our library, we do not have braille spine labels. We do not provide CCTVs for users with disabilities. CCTVs are those technologies which help to scan images and then read back to the person who has either a low vision or who is totally blind. So they say they are not able to provide those. And then the person finally said that we do not know how to communicate with them. That's another challenge also. All of us have this challenge that sometimes we do not know how to communicate with persons with disabilities. And that is an accessibility gap, because we need to make sure that we provide. So, someone said that it is sometimes difficult to access online services at the university because it has inadequate technological equipment. And this was a student. You can see that this student is confirming what the person in a disability support center was saying. I'll go quickly to the barriers that these people talked about. One of the barriers was the high cost of technology, which was really very high. They said poverty was a big barrier to them. They talked about inaccessible websites. They talked about misconceptions and stereotypes about them. Inadequate assistive technologies was also another issue. So meaning that these barriers are really making it hard for the universities to meet the needs of these students. And when we did the interviews, we had some of these verbatim quotations that were given to us. For instance, one stakeholder said that we lack a budget for software and hardware for persons with disabilities. We do not have braille paper. The library does not have audio books, and we lack equipment for persons with disabilities. The another stakeholder also said there's a serious problem in getting what PWDs need. You put in a requisition and it takes too long. And sometimes persons with disabilities are not a priority. That becomes very frustrating. Yeah, someone also talked about the budget. I will not say that again. So, the library organizes trainings. They do not provide for sign language interpreters. I think most of us are culprits on this one, isn't it? We organize meetings. The Carnegie invites us for meetings. No sign language interpreters, isn't it? We need to make sure that we take into account sign language interpretation, because when someone comes to a meeting, they must know, they must follow everything. Sorry, that was a joke, Nesta. It's not serious. Yeah, so we must ensure that we take into account those people who are deaf or hard of hearing. Because if we don't take into account their needs, then they cannot participate fully. And yet they are very brilliant people. They can always make contributions. They can make comments. And one of the suggestions that was made was that they wish if we organize meetings, we prepare a meeting and we will have a sign language interpreter, record the meeting and send it. So that when someone comes, they can follow, but have something to be with if you don't have someone on site. So let's see when it is just text and those who are deaf would see it signed. Meaning that it can really help. But even if, okay, other universities says we don't have facilities, but their lecturers could come here, prepare their lectures, deliver them, and then students can access them on their online learning platforms. So the limitations I want to talk about, and I'm almost ending, that this was a small sample. Although I said 100, I know Uganda has more persons with disabilities than 111. So we cannot really generalize the findings to persons with the physical, hearing, and the visual impairment in Uganda. But what we can say is that these findings are still vital and helpful in as far as highlighting the needs, digital inclusion needs, in as far as highlighting the digital inclusion and accessibility gaps, and highlighting the digital accessibility barriers that persons with disabilities experience. Future research could focus on inclusion of persons with dyslexia, persons with low vision, slow learners, and many other types of disabilities, because this study only focused on 3 disabilities. Also, we propose that we could focus on digital and independent living of persons with disabilities within the community, because sometimes we think that we should only think about persons who come to the university. But as I showed to you when I was presenting the statistics, 12% of persons with disabilities live in rural areas, meaning that we need to know their needs, we need to know their issues, so that we can be able to plan for them and support them. We want to acknowledge very much the Carnegie Corporation for funding this project, this postdoctoral research that we've done from 2020 to 2024. Want to acknowledge Dr. Sebugwawo, the mentor. Want to acknowledge Professor Muyinda Birevu, another mentor. Want to acknowledge Madam Agnes Akol. Can you stand for recognition, please? Yeah, she's a master's student on my program, on this program, and she's done us proud. She has already submitted and defended. She's waiting for her for graduation. You've already seen Dr. Sebugwawo, but I want him to stand also for recognition. Sorry. Nesta, kindly stand up for recognition on behalf of the Carnegie Corporation. Then we want to also thank our research assistants. We have Upendo Kalemera Uwembabazi. I don't know whether he's here. We have Jayo Ignatius, another research assistant. We have Simon Kamua, research assistant. We have Rita Nawera, research assistant, and Matthew Visase, research assistant. Last but not least, we want to thank the students and academic staff and the other stakeholders like librarians who participated in this study, because without them, we would not have this data. Kindly allow me to make some of them stand. When I request the team from Mbarara University of Science and Technology to stand, kindly. Thank you very much. You have such a committed team that even come to even witness the presentation of the findings of the study that you participated in. May I ask participants from Kyambogo University, those who participated in the study, please stand for recognition. Kyambogo University. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank also participants from Makerere University. Makerere University, yes. Rina, thank you very much for coming. I thank you for participating. We want to thank participants from MOOCs, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, without those people, we wouldn't have this data. And we thank you because you generously gave us the data that has been put together to put together these findings. These are the references, and I want to thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robina, for that elaborate presentation. Can we give her another round of applause? You know, it's not easy standing before a crowd of people. Thank you, Doctor. In that presentation, Doctor already told you that I am her student, part of that research, and I also carried out a research on assistive technologies. Its use in teaching mathematics to students with visual impairment in our secondary schools in Uganda. And as we all know, mathematics is quite a challenging subject, especially to the persons with visual impairment, simply because its content requires more of the vision aspect, which persons with visual impairment have a limitation in. In that research, I looked at 3 objectives where I wanted to establish the assistive technologies available for teaching mathematics in our secondary schools, the competencies that the teachers had in teaching the students with visual impairment, and I also explored how they use the assistive technologies. To give a small, let me say, a drop into the ocean, the results showed that our secondary schools have quite a variety of assistive technologies, but their numbers are really very few, which does not match the number of students that we have in the secondary schools. And it also showed that most of the teachers that we have in our secondary schools that enroll students with visual impairment have inadequate knowledge and the skills on the use of the assistive technologies that the students with visual impairment have. That's why when I went out for the study, in most schools, you find that they have boxes with assistive technologies packed in them and have never been used just because they do not have the knowledge and the skills to use them to support in the teaching of the students. And lastly, this now shows minimal use of these assistive technologies, and therefore there was a recommendation that if the Ministry of Education, other stakeholders could procure and supply more of what we have in these schools to match the number of students that we have in our secondary schools. There is also a need to carry out training of the teachers who are in these secondary schools such that they have the knowledge and the skills, especially on the use of the assistive technologies, such that they can support the teaching of mathematics to students with visual impairment. And then lastly, if they could identify, recruit, and post teachers who have this knowledge and skills of special needs education to those schools, the secondary schools that admit students with visual impairment, such that they are able to support them and the students are able to learn. With this, I thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming. As now, I humbly ask Mr. Binasali to come over to lead in the discussion of the just disseminated results. Mr. Bin, you're welcome.
Hello, hello. Sugar levels are down. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Protocol observed. My name is Binasal Chevagada. My students call me Mr. Bean. Not the other bean we enjoy or recycle bean of the computer, but BIN. Thank you, Doctor, for this wonderful kind of research. I'm so amazed with the kind of findings because for this is my 14th year working in the area of assistive technology. You have really addressed some of the issues that have been not taken care of in the area of assistive technology. I am married. My wife is hard of hearing, severe. And before I took cows, she visited me. And on that day, thieves attacked us from front and behind. But she uses an iPhone and an Otcon hearing aid. The iPhone was in the sitting room charging, and of course the hearing aids were in the bedroom. So how does this work? When an unauthorized person touch on the phone, there is a lot of noise alert systems. So it happened that we had alert systems in the bedroom and also in the sitting room. Guess what? The thieves left because they were unaware what was happening in the house. The following month, I had to take cows because I knew someone who can chase away thieves with the help of assistive technology was the right person. Hallelujah. What does that mean? Technology or access to assistive technology should be by choice, not by chance. It should be by choice, not by chance. Many students come to universities, of course, not only Kyambogo University, and they just find themselves that they're accessing some devices. And yet it should not be like that. Why? From doctor's presentation of findings, you realize that access to assistive technology gives us a formula inclusion. There is participation. When you have access to assistive technology, there will be increase in participation. And participation is one of the parameters of inclusion. Another is accessibility. When you have access to assistive technology, there will be increase in accessibility to information, accessibility to lecture notes, accessibility in the world of work, and that will be promoting inclusion. There is also social acceptance. A case in point, one of my students almost dropped out of the university in year 2 because no one could tell her that she's smart. So I introduced to her a software called TapTapC. This is a screen. It's a software which is free of charge. It's open source. You can install on your phone. So in your wardrobe, you just take a picture, and then it will describe yellow, green, blue dress, and then you match. So for her, because she was colorblind, she used to put on green and black only from day one day to green and black. But with the help of TapTapC, she was able to identify the different colors. And the following week, I remember I was in the field. She came and said, "Mr. Bean, what have you done? Everyone is telling me I'm smart, I'm smart, I'm smart." Because now she's able to match the different clothes. What is interesting from doctors finding members or friends? Inadequacy of assistive devices. At Kyambogo University, currently we are serving 240 students with disabilities. But the center, or what we call the high-tech center where we are currently, we only have 2 Focus Blue 40. Focus Blue 40 is a device. This is just an example. It's a device that can bridge the gap between a lecturer and a student. A lecturer who doesn't know Braille, you can connect the device to the laptop. The student will be typing in Braille, the language that he or she understands, and for you, you see the text on your computer. It helps to avoid delays in marking results, in marking and providing results to students with disabilities. But we have 2, and the users are 96. So that is a very big challenge, and I concur with doctors' finding. My role was to discuss the findings, but I'm not a one-man's army. I want to use this opportunity with those few highlights I've put forward to make discussion open. Please feel free to submit from what Doctor has presented. Thank you. I need someone with a mic. Yes, Victor Ochoro.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and the team. Thank you, everyone. I am one of the happiest human beings on the globe after hearing what Robina has presented, because in September, the year 2000, I introduced the idea of a resource room for students with visual impairment in former UNICE, because we had 3 students with visual impairment, but there was no way to support them. And I caused the recruitment of somebody called Akip. Is he here? One of the people who works with him. But when we joined Kyambogo University, I worked with the then warden of UNICE, the late Gabriel Okeny, to introduce what we call assessment. of students with disabilities so that we could know as Kyambogo University their learning needs, their welfare needs, and so on. Then we would ask the university to support them. But that was not enough. I introduced in 2006, that was 2004. In 2006, I introduced the idea of a university policy on disability in order to guide the policy planning, policy implementation, and service provision in the whole university. And that is what has guided Kyambogo University to put up many things. And in that policy, I came up with the idea of Disability Support Center. And I sold the idea to National Council for Higher Education in 2010, 2011 academic year. Now it is a requirement for all for all universities to have a disability policy and a disability support center. But implementation is a challenge. And one of the challenges I would like Robina to include, one of the barriers is attitudinal. Attitudinal barriers are making implementation of those policies difficult, making planning, budgeting for those policies difficult. Attitudinal. Because people come with their traditional attitudes and think disability is not a priority. I was told in the face in this very university that disability is not a priority in 2014. But later on, two representatives of persons with disabilities fought it hard so that now that attitude is slowly changing. So if in Kyambogo that has been a barrier, then what about in Makerere? In Makerere, I was invited to give a keynote talk to top management in July 2019. And after that keynote talk, many things have changed in Makerere. And they are likely even to surpass Kyambogo if Kyambogo is not careful. We gave this lady from Mbarara University came to my office to learn how to help the university come up with a policy and to come up with a disability support center. They are somewhere. They still have challenges. They are moving fast. It is a big challenge. And attitude can only be addressed by continuous awareness raising, exposure, and so on. That's what I would like the research team, to capture in the section of barriers. The other one is, let us develop role models. It's very good to develop role models. Kyambogo should be a role model, but for some time it has lagged behind in many issues. We would like the Central Library in Kyambogo to have a disability resource unit where students and staff will go to access the resources of the library in the library and use them there and leave them there. You can learn from University of Cape Town, you can learn from University of Pretoria, you can learn from Stellenbosch University, you can learn from the University of South Africa, you can learn from Assistive. So that we need to capture that also. Let us, if resources are a problem, let us have whatever we can to make models, role models in some of our facilities. A library should have, so that the Disability Support Center is only a coordinating service center, not where the actual services are rendered.
30 seconds, Mr. Ochoro.
And then We would like to thank the people who cooperated in this study. Some of us struggled to the extent that we got hated because of struggling and speaking hard for disability inclusion. This facility called Central Teaching Facility, plus the Central Library, and this one, Technical Teacher Education. Is the Irene Omeke around? There's a lady called Irene Omeke from planning. The inclusive structures. And for them, they followed our guidance. But the contractors for this new building in education, and then there are a new building behind my office for engineering. They did not follow guidance. We had to make them break when they were 60% completion to break some rooms to create accessible pathways and toilets, etc. at their cost because they do not follow our guidance and the law, we are using the law. So when you are hard on disability, things can come out, but be careful, you may be hated like some of us.
Thank you. Now, I request members, when you get a microphone, go straight to the point.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lochoro.
Yes, sister. Please send after to give the mic to sister now.
Very much. Mine is just brief. I want to appreciate Dr. Namleme, the researcher, and the colleagues. But also, this is really an important issue. I'm happy to note some of these things. For example, when we talk, the results indicate that in some instances, meetings would take place without catering for the disabled. In Kyambogo here, I believe really this is something we can do if we are really serious and awakened by such workshops. And I really appreciate that some of the things are not very easy for us. For example, recently when we had a graduate training orientation for graduate students, they were asking us what special we have for them in terms of equipment to support their learning. Some of these may not be easy for us, but I would request that we continue working with the Special Needs Also Center and ICT, because I believe as staff who are here, we also need some basics in sign language. We have so many students here, and this can help us to give support, especially when they are talking, when they are using online and the computer goes off and there is nobody to support. I was asking myself, if you are near, can you give support? So some of these things, I believe, if we are especially given some basic skills, we can be able to handle them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Indeed, we've been supporting staff in the center. Usually, if you clock 40, you tend to have either hyperopia or myopia, long-sightedness or short-sightedness. So we have CCTVs where staff come and compete with the students on available resources to mark. Thank you, sister.
Just 1 minute, please. A minute. Thank you so much. Dr. Namleme and the group, I want to thank you so much for this spot on research. I call it spot on research because we are talking about people with disabilities and the implementation is not there. I really wanted to thank you and the findings which you have brought to the world. First of all, Sister Maria Goretzka, who is my name. I'm a quality assurance director, but at the same time, I'm in the academic world. I belong to the School of Education, And I'm a curriculum specialist, a researcher, and a writer. Let me go to the point. First of all, I wanted to talk about 3 points. Dr. Singoma has already brought very clearly about the 2 points. The points about training. As lecturers working in Kyambogo University, actually we should get the basics. Namlema, I think the next project should be about the capacity building of the lecturers, all of us, to have the basics so that we can interpret, not only to wait for interpreters only. That is one, which Dr. Singom has already talked about. And 2, those are the interpreters during the meetings. That we can do. Kindly, if there are no interpreters, inform the Quality Assurance Directorate office, and we see how we can work it out with the needed people. Because we have interpreters, there isn't any reason why we shouldn't get interpreters during any meeting of any kind. The third one, Dr. Namlema, it's about the participants you left behind who would have provided a lot of information about this research. And that those participants are the staff who teach people with disability, but they are not in a disability group. And I thought those lecturers or those people would have provided a lot of information. And I thought I would see it in the future group, in the future research, but it was not there. So I would request that maybe another research should be done with this type of people who would have provided a lot of information to make this research very rich. Otherwise, it is a spot on research. I thank you so much and I submit.
Thank you, sister. The hand behind, then we follow, you come in front. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, our chair and the presenters for the findings which they have just shared with us. My name is Alex Twinamasko. I'm a curriculum specialist for special needs education, and I'm also a PhD student for special needs education, the Faculty of Special Needs Education. I'm very much impressed with this kind of presentation. For sure, we've been lacking the element of inclusion in institutions of higher learning regarding to how we can support them, because many people are not aware we have such as students with our support. Moving to the recommendations, I am happy that the presenter recommended that some other research should be conducted on students with dyslexia, how to which assistive technologies do such students require, those who are whom she called slow learners, the time takers, generally students with the moderate intellectual impairment who are probably also admitted to universities also face challenges. So there are some possible assistive technologies for such as students. I found there is a problem, especially in academic research recently when I was collecting some data in one of the faculties on students who have moderate intellectual impairment. Someone told me that the universities do not admit those who have moderate intellectual impairment. And I was wondering whether when those people who are admitted, whether they have the same points, whether they enter with the same points. At least there are those who are average or below average who are also admitted. Maybe who are some points far below 10. Those people would be also supported as we teach these children. So there are some assistive technologies for such as students. There is a need to create awareness. One of the recommended awareness raising among the academic staff and other stakeholders to inform on any possible support for such people in the institutions of higher learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are remaining with only two. That is Mr. Charles from INAB, my brother here, and we shall give one opportunity to the student. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Doctor, and the group on research. I would say that very true. This is the time that we should focus on inclusiveness for persons with disability. I want to pose my question to the Ministry, to National Council for Higher Education, because we have very clear standards to have the disability being catered for, especially when it comes to universities and maybe secondary schools. What has the National Council for Higher Education and the quality assurance personnel done to enforce these issues? Even if we talked, even if we came up with recommendations which are very appropriate, like Doctor has posed them, we need to have an upper hand from this standard, National Council for Higher Education and the quality assurance. Because the task force has moved all over to ensure that the standards are enforced. So what is the way forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Please pass the mic. Xavier Kwaso, you're the second last.
Thank you. My name from Makerere University, and I'm part of the administrators of this project we are closing today. I'm very excited about the results because personally I participated in the review process when we are trying to award, and it was one of the higher rated projects. The results she presented, I looked at some scores. There seem to be low rates of marks or scores in relation to what is happening in Kyambogo and in, around the country. That means that we are in a critical situation to make actions for this cause. I happen to have visited about 15 universities in this country in the last 5 years. When you look at the facilities just by mere physical walking around, entering buildings and wherever, you realize there is actually something lacking. And now that we are here, this cause should not stop today. As the sister said, there is a need for sensitizing people. And to me, I've always told people that it will be hard for us to understand. You only feel it when you are in it. And we are all candidates of disability in any way. Let it be today or tomorrow. So we shouldn't shy away working with the data that she has presented so that we move forward this project. I've not listened to what the proposal will be for the visual center, something like that. Probably I will still be here and probably have some input. But we need to do a lot of work. You need to come up with a paper, share with the humanitarians, especially through the disability representatives and all these other organizations, so that we can continue discussing these issues to help our sisters and brothers and those who are coming and for the future. I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vyekwaso.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dinasari. I want to add my voice to thank Robina. By the way, my name is Byekwas Charles Salongo. I work with the Uganda National Association of the Blind. And you must know very well that Uganda National Association of the Blind is the pioneer of all of these assistive technologies. We started bringing in the country the assistive technology and starting the programs in 2001 when we collaborated with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, World Blind Union, Sight Savers, and the Institutional Development Program of the World Blind Union. So many students passed, those who were going to different universities, pass through our hands. We are training them to be able to go and do their coursework effectively. And at that time, the concept of the assistive and access technology was not available in all universities. But we thank God that now, as we advance in the age, even the, the advancement in technology is also for the persons with vision impairment is advancing. And I'm happy about Robina for really exploring more opportunities and more information that has been lacking to this effect. And I wanted actually also to propose that much as was talking about the legal support, which is the CRPD, let her also consider the Marrakesh Treaty, which UNAP currently is the campaign or is advancing to be domesticated into the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act of 2006. There are other international legal frameworks which also accompany the treaty, but the Marrakesh Treaty is the second world legal framework which supports persons with disabilities. It is entirely for the persons with the reading disabilities. It helps to advocate and support the implementation of accessing information in different formats, like the narration, the EPUB, there is a etc. It's and the braille. So it's not only for blind people, but also people with the other disabilities who are unable to read. So I really beg that Dr. Robina also looks into it and supports UNAB also in our campaign to domesticate the treaty, which will help all people to access information in different formats. Then too, I wanted to apologize that I came late because I was just out. We have a new director now in UNAP, and we also have a campaign. This year, we are not going to have the white cane, the traditional white cane, just walking in the streets waving our hands and the white canes. We have realized that many people, when they come for the white cane, they just wave their hands. They don't have white canes. But with this time, we are coming up with a new innovation of the white cane marathon, which we have termed Clear the Way. So we are beginning from Katikati on 17th November, and the chief runner is going to be the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament. So we want to
Thank you. Because time is not our friend.
Sorry.
Yes.
So, but let them take note of that, and the letters are coming, and other people have also received the communication. Please join us, and we support and we buy white cane. We want to see every blind person going to school, university, everywhere, having a white cane in their hands. Thank you.
Don't forget to send the money for the advertisement to Dr. Lobina. Within 1 minute, my friend from Makerere must. Yes.
Good afternoon, members. Today I'm very happy because Madam Robina at least put facts as they are. She didn't liquidify them or add in an extra thing, but what she got from the ground is what she has disseminated today. And we thank you very much for that. On that note, I thank you very much because when the minister was talking about what to include, he said there has been an umbilical cord but without blood, and this time he's going to put blood. I'm very happy because that has been my most problem. There are policies, but implementation, there is no enforcement. And I'm suggesting that when you are doing your research, you also put a way of enforcing those policies. I don't know how we can call it, or the government will request that there should be something to enforce, like there are these National Drug Authority which enforce how drugs are being administered. So there should be an authority looking at how disability is being rolled out, because implementation on ground is very complicated. And recently we have been developing a sign language basics for our university. And whenever you go to management, everywhere they will tell you, you go to Kyambogo. Even our students go to Kyambogo. Now we are saying, how will all people go to Kyambogo to get sign language? Yet it can be done here within. So we had to write a proposal and for funding, but though we didn't get funding, but at least we squeezed the management and they gave us money for implementing, and now we are in the third week learning sign language. We thank Kyambogo very much for you are our mother in disability implementation. Everything starts from here. So as I'm here today with my group, we want to see how those people who have studied, who are learning that basics, those basics, how are they going to be given certification? Is it by, I don't know how you are going to assist us. I think you will help us. And I thank you very much, Kyambogo University, for whatever you are saying is exactly a duplication of what is in our universities there. Thank you very much. I'm happy everything is going to be done as is supposed to be done.
Amen. We're also happy to have you here. The last one is.
I didn't introduce myself. I'm very sorry. I'm Stella Dusabe Biarugawa, representing people living with disabilities at Mbarara University Council. And here I'm representing Mbarara, and I've come with others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Stella Dusabe. One student, and we close this discussion.
Thank you so much. I'm Tenyo Hamisi, a student here at Kyambogo University, doing a Bachelor of Community Development and Social Justice. I'm in my year 2. I'm happy to be here and salute everyone in your respective capacities. As well recognize the presence of
my boss, Mr. Yekwaso. Thank you. It's the reason as to why I can talk of assistive technology and what. So I'm a user of assistive technology, and I'd like to emphasize just like 2 points. The issue of captioning, both videos and photos. This is very important because I don't know how much information I've missed because of photos lacking captions in WhatsApp groups, on websites. But this is just a small matter, but in turn turns out to be a very big matter. I'll just give 2 experiences of some opportunities I missed because of lack of caption. There is a course I undertook, it must be in 2022, by Thur Energies. As they were introducing that new project, they put up a course, basically to students that were supposed to undertake it. Then I guess the best student was supposed, I think, to get an opportunity to work with them. So what they were doing, I was encountering photos that lacked captions and videos that didn't have caption. Meanwhile, these videos was well silent. So I didn't gain from the visual and the audio. And later on, I had to attempt questions regarding those videos. So I just used to pass the mathematics part and the other text part. But I used to pass as well. But basing on the fact that they required the best performing, because of my visual impairment and lack of captioning, I missed out. But that is very far. Our very KLMS here. I was undertaking some of the courses that were uploaded, and I ended on the way. Reason: at one point I was navigating the website, and there was a command that was telling me to drag and drop with JAWS. The JAWS users know what I'm meaning. Dragging and drop with a mouse, I guess you hold then pull, right? But with JAWS, there's no way you can drag and drop. So when I reached there, all my modes died because it comes back to the other thing of manufacturing things for us, but not with us. So, and the other thing I would like to urge to our fellow people with disabilities that let's seek for knowledge, because most of these things we can clearly describe photos, but because we don't know how to describe them. You know that I can draw a graph in Excel very well. I can get all the details on the graph with JAWS. JAWS has very many features. There is what we call Picture Smart. It gives you all the details of an image. I can be able to detect the population of people in here when I'm using some apps. But you can't know when you're not seeking for knowledge. All these things are there. So before we cry of not accessible, have we utilized the available few? That's a question. And my request to the university, this is just a food for thought. The dean of the faculty of computing spoke of a lot of ICT related courses, but there was nothing like ICT, I mean bachelor or certificate with assistive technology. So meaning that is already, should I call it marginalization? So we are not included in there. But okay, I can't blame anyone because people don't know that we can do these things. Probably because we are not branding ourselves very well. But I'm sure when they involve us, at least we can involve the minimum a certificate. Because we can note that this knowledge of ours is not concentrated in a specific area. That you can go here and learn all the Microsoft Office packages in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, Microsoft Outlook. You can navigate a website. You know that we can develop Google Forms with JAWS. But if you don't know that when I go to a website and I turn off the virtual PC cursor, things will be bad because you lack the knowledge. So that's my recommendation. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I cannot deny my boss a minute. Please, can you pass the mic to Dr. Posiano? Just 1 minute and we close this session. I know it is very interesting, members, not so?
Yes, very interesting indeed. And thank you, Dr. Robina,
I now understand why some of my mentors at the University of Cape Town were telling me, you need to meet Robina. You have one of your colleagues, the Disability Inclusive Development Family. Welcome to the Disability Inclusive Fraternity. A few things or observations from the presentation, which was very intriguing. The results were very insightful. And I want to suggest maybe one observation is the use of some words which are not, I would say, disability friendly, or which is not disability friendly language. One part, I think a colleague talked about it, slow learner. I don't know whether we have slow learners, but this is and slow writers. When I talked about a category that was missing in your data collection that would have included to interview or participate, those are the lecturers. But me, I think as per the Schedule 3 of the Persons with Disabilities Act, amended 2020, there are 8 categories of disabilities. And you only from the word go targeted 3. I didn't see justification for leaving out others, though you mentioned the limitation, and you said there was a small number of the 3. I didn't see why the others were not mentioned. But in the recommendation, which you highlighted that we need to do research and include those with dyslexia and the slow learners and slow writers, I feel that is still small. I suggest that we include the others who were left out. Maybe we can call that category the persons with the intellectual and developmental disabilities, which includes autism and others, but also the deaf and blind. They have their complex issues in accessing digital technology. Those with multiple disabilities, which is another category. I may be short, I may be blind, and I may be maybe having another disability. And I also don't know, maybe you look at the schedule, whether the little people of Uganda also have their own challenges in digital inclusion. Like if that mic is up there and you call someone who is a little person, start talking, maybe he would be left out in the inclusion. And someone talked attitude, I think that was Mr. Rocho, implementers, policy makers. But my previous speaker, the colleague, has talked to users. If we are addressing the attitude of implementers, policymakers, the managers, in this study, are we catering for the attitudes of the persons with disabilities themselves so that they can, first of all, embrace the little, as my colleague has put it, the little that is already there, and then demand for more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. The last for Makerere. Within 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. In. I'm Matthias from Mackay University Library. Also representing the University Library, as you told me to say. Talking about capacity build at Makerere University Library, we wanted to learn sign language. I visited Kyambogo here, but I found that the sign language is fused into another program. You don't have a sign language class only. I was so disappointed. Maybe you could think of having short courses of various trainings like sign language. What we've done at the university library We have picked librarians from different places, colleges, and we have done 2 months of sign language. We are still students of sign language. But if we had a post here at Kyambogo, strictly sign language, or maybe even some other things, I think that would be very good for us.
Thank you. I request Dean will respond to that. Dean, Faculty of Special Needs and Habitation.
I know time has gone. We trained a team of staff from Makerere University Library in 2000, but I believe they could have left by now. We trained them in sign language for 3 weeks. We trained them in mobility techniques. We trained them in how to support students with different disabilities, in how to access library resources. And we also trained them on how to get support to put up assistive device. But I believe many of them could have left by now. But at the same time, that same year, Makerere asked us to develop criteria for admitting students with different disabilities. And we developed, I was on the team, we developed, and that's the criteria that Makerere has used since then. But Makerere has one advantage. Makerere has been admitting students with disabilities since 1974. And so we told them, you already have the knowledge, except you are not using it well. And so we helped them to develop that into criteria. But as of now, you have 2 options. Write to the Dean, Faculty of Special Needs and Rehabilitation, to give you 3 or so staff. You organize a training on your own campus. The staff will come and train you for 2-3 weeks. We did that with administrative staff in Kyambogo. We organized a 2 weeks training on sign language in 2011, 2012. But of course, some of those have now left the university service. But those who are there are in different areas, and those was for non-teaching staff. So you can do the same instead of you coming here, because the trainings we have now are long, 2 years. But you can also ask the department, the head of department, deaf education and sign language interpretation, to develop, to revive a certificate. We used to have a certificate for 3 months. So I don't know whether that answers you.
Thank
But
you.
also for Kyambogo, the sister asked for capacity training. We use the 2 weeks training on sign language. We developed the idea for staff development, and we used staff development funds to train staff, non-teaching staff, administrative and support in sign language. So let's have a talk with management on this, so that we can have a training for deans and heads of department, a training for examination coordinators, a training for other lecturers. Because some of the stigmatizing and excluding experiences in Kyambogo University are from Faculty of Education and Faculty of Science, and one department in Faculty of Vocational Studies. A student, 2 students using wheelchairs and crutches in Faculty of Education could not access lectures. We wrote to them, we wrote to the academic registrar. They could not access lectures because lectures were upstairs. And so the students would carry their colleague, and sometimes they would miss steps and were nearly falling with the student. And so some teachers, we talked to the dean, we talked to the heads of department, we talked to the examination coordinators, and one of them said, "Well, I think we lack common sense." And I think common sense is not common.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ocholo. I want to wind up this session by echoing one recommendation from Dr. Namleme findings. She talked about uh, the policy being, we cannot interpret these policies. However, we should also note that these policies need to be revised. A case in point, our examination policy. You know, when we provide the answer booklet to students, when you turn it behind, there are examination instructions there, regulations. In the previous examination, I had a scenario. A student is suffering from, not suffering, but he has RP. RP is retinitis pigmentosa, meaning he has blurred vision. Honestly, when you look at the lines of the answer booklet, they are too small. So I realized that this student keeps overwriting the answers in the same area. For example, paragraph 1 is combined into paragraph 2, paragraph something like that. So I got a marker and a photocopying paper. I made an answer booklet, which was friendly and easier for him. He was very happy. But when the invigilators, the supervisors came, they asked me, "Where did you get permission to use this answer booklet? Why is it provided in the policy?" Good enough, I'm too practical. I blindfolded the supervisor and I made him to feel what the student is going through using the the simulation glasses we have in the center. So he's like, "I cannot even see where to write." I said, "Exactly. Can you now allow me to continue with the student using this modified answer booklet?" So not only that, we have our friends like SES International, Cyber School. They have given us Orbit readers. But when the student is using Orbit reader in the examination, the invigilator, the policy does not even allow use of assistive devices in a examinations. So I take this opportunity to use the findings of Dr. Namleme to make such kind of recommendations to the university and top management. Thank you for your feedback. I think it has been so much important to be added in his finding. For those who are legally blind, I'm putting on a white change shirt. My hair is trimmed, black trouser, and a gray boot. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bin, for taking us through the discussion. I think he needs another round of applause. And allow me to take this very opportunity to thank you so much for the active participation. Give a hand clap to yourself. Thank you. In our program, I see we want to look at the activity that leads us to the introduction of the proposal for the multimedia laboratory for persons with disabilities, and the Dean, Faculty of Special Needs and Rehabilitation, will lead us through this. Dr. Patrick, you're very most welcome.
my colleague, the Dean, and other administrators of Kyambogo University who are present, and all the remaining participants in the room. My name is Patrick Ojok. I am the Dean of the Faculty of Special Needs and Rehabilitation at Kyambogo University. I like to identify as a disability studies scholar. I have a PhD in disability studies from the University of Illinois at Chicago in the United States of America. I went for that study using a Fulbright scholarship award, and I'm highlighting this on purpose because in most cases, studies to do with disability are relegated as necessarily unimportant, not to be funded, but the Fulbright Scholarship is the US leading scholarship program and actually one of the world's most competitive scholarships. But with all that global pedigree that the United States has, it gives disability a central position in its funding priorities. So who are we not to do the same? Before I talk about the proposal, I have some preamble remarks in relation to the study that has happened today. First, the study touches a crucial area of technology. I want to start at a point that the centrality of technology in human life is that while it makes work easy for persons without disabilities, it makes work possible for persons with disabilities. For those without disabilities, it makes work easy. Those with disabilities, it makes work possible. And that's how important it should be understood. The other issue that I want to touch in relation to this study is that Dr. Robina, coming into disability research, underscores the inherent interdisciplinarity of disability studies. By implication, therefore, Dr. Robina, you are a disability studies scholar. Why do I say this? Some people locate disability in specific faculties. For us in Kyambogo University, a cross-section of us think, whenever you talk disability, go to North End. But today I'm going to say disability is geography-less. It has no location. It has no border. In fact, a scholar called Leonard Davis says it is porous border where anyone can go in, anyone can go out at any time. So the interdisciplinarity of disability studies has been underscored by this study because Robina, I think, is not originally from the so-called disability studies specific fields, but from one of those mainstream disciplines. What I'm trying to say is that as scholars in the house, go back knowing that you don't have to be in a faculty of special needs rehabilitation to study disability. You can study disability in sports. Is what is called adapted physical activity. You can study disability in history. You can study disability in computing. You can study disability in engineering. In fact, now for the engineers, there's a whole concept of universal design. The reason we have inaccessible buildings all over the country is because the engineers universities are churning out have no idea of architectural barriers and the need for universal design. So it's relevant across the board. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the need for growing the evidence base in disability research. You see, when you come into this area of study, most of the literature you will interact with and cite are from the global north, that is North America, Europe. You are doing local research citing northern scholars. Why? Partly because there is still sparsity of indigenous scholarship. So we need, as emerging disability studies scholars, to do more research individually and collectively and publish, because that's the only way that we can grow the evidence base. And then I want to touch something which I call the growth of euphemism in disability. I have heard some language and terms used here, which I want to politely correct, because if I don't, it will circulate as a wave. What is the difference when somebody tells you you are indecent upstairs from when they tell you you are stupid? Is there a difference? Indecent upstairs is the sugar-coated way of telling the person you are stupid, hoping the person does not understand the stupidity you are referring to. So this kind of language is being imported in disability field. There is a growing wave of some people saying, don't call disability disability, because disability as a name is a turn-off, right? If you say people with disability, that's the turn-off. Persons who are deaf, deafness is negative, necessarily negative. So instead of saying persons with disabilities, let's call them persons who are differently able. It's a euphemism. It's just deceptive. It's deceptive language. And it's on the rise. In disability studies, it is highly critiqued and condemned as not correct to sugarcoat disability. And it has an effect of diverting attention from tackling the real issues to other things. But the other issue is there is nothing belittling, inhuman, abnormal about disability, so that you run away from it by calling it other, seemingly different names. So there's nothing. Disability is an identity like other identity. And it is an identity that can be reclaimed like any other person who wants to reassert that I am black. Why? And I'm proud to be black. So that is the issue of euphemism. But in a space like this, I can't discuss much. The other thing is, before I touch on the issue of the multimedia center, I wanted to say this. Paradigm shifts must precede service delivery or initiatives. Why do I say that? If you bought your Range Rover, 600 million, and you went with it to the village where nobody knows the value of the Range Rover, and you just packed it in the church and went in, you'll come out and find children have used stones to write their names on your car. Range Rover. Not so. Actually, it happened to me. I first owned a vehicle in 2015. After my PhD studies, I did a big graduation in the village. So I went with my black Harrier, and we were busy celebrating. And the following morning, I found all sorts of drawings in my car. I understood the implication when I came to the garage. And the bill was given to me. And even with paying a high bill, some of those marks were irreversible. What am I saying? Before I say that, there's an initiative called ABEC. ABEC was Alternative Basic Education Karamoja. It was designed to address the nomadic lifestyle of the Karamojan, but something happened. The issue was that these people shift during dry season to follow where water is, so they go with the students. But that was not taken into consideration, and schools, big ones, were constructed in villages before making the villagers appreciate formal education. What happened for many years? Some of these schools, very good infrastructure, became accommodation for animals. You'd go to a school during the dry season, the rainy season, the dry season, hosting animals. So the center we are talking about will do not much unless it is preceded by paradigm shift towards disability inclusion. You'll have a center maybe put in place using investment from outside, but destroyed by us because we don't appreciate the people who need it. Or we will fail to sustain it using local budget because we have not reached the level of appreciating it. So we need what Victor was calling attitude change, paradigm shift. And that is one thing which kept disability in the sidelines of society for far too long because of all kind of evil assumptions about this group. The last two things I want to mention is in response to the issue of programs at Kyambogo University. We have short courses. We have now a short course, 6 months, in Ugandan Sign Language. Just visit our newly revamped faculty website. You will find a short course on sign language, interpreting and translation. You'll find a short course on Braille proficiency. You'll find a short course on personal assistant services. Maybe initially we need to work on a short course on assistive technology. We will work on a short course on inclusive education for non-specialized people or practitioners. So, but at the same time, we have the conventional programs from certificate to PhD level. We have a PhD in special needs education, the only one in the country. We have a Master of Disability Studies and Inclusive Development. We have a new Master of Science in Sign Language Interpreting and an upcoming Bachelor in Sign Language Interpreting and Translation. We have Masters of Special Needs Education as well as a PGD. We have a PGD in Community-Based Rehabilitation. So we have specialized programs and we can support the nation. Like now we have a curriculum in lower secondary, whereas Ugandan Sign Language is supposed to be offered as an elective subject in secondary schools, but there are no teachers there. We have the capacity to train even 1,000 teachers for Uganda, but I think Uganda has not yet matched the reform in the lower secondary competency-based curriculum with the money needed to put in place this personnel, but we are there. Lastly, I want to welcome you to Kyambogo University, this very hall, in November for a conference. We are organizing the East African Conference on Disability Inclusive Higher Education. We will host it at the university intentionally so that people come and see what we have, but take this as a very important platform for sub-region scholars to meet, to co-create ideas, to mentor, and to share the research they have. I want to appeal to Ugandan higher education institutions that are here. Let us turn up in good number, because the idea behind this conference is that we should have academic space for you to be able to share your research instead of going far. Actually, now with the government not funding travel abroad, why don't we create these kind of spaces here? So if you would love to share your research, you can write to me. We can still take your abstract on a special request. And I would wish for Dr. Robina to consider sharing with her students, one of the smart students whose Viva I attended recently, to share these works. And our students with disabilities who are here, you can come and share with East Africa the inclusion experience at Kyambogo University. You can visit the website and you will be able to read more about the conference, but we are waiting for you here at the hall. Thank you very much. Now, the idea of multimedia center. Robina, this is an excellent recommendation which resonate with our own faculty long-standing thinking. So we've been thinking about an assistive technology hub, which would be a national center of excellence, not just for Kyambogo University, but also serving other campuses and other lower education institutions. So the purpose of the proposed center would be, and this is still working ideas, not yet polished, could create an inclusive learning environment that caters for students and staff with disabilities, but also enhance their participation in other non-academic campus life. And of course, the focus would be on having a multimedia center which is designed for students with print disabilities and other disabilities. So when we talk of print disabilities, we are talking about not just the visual impairment, but any other disability that would limit a person from accessing and using what we call traditional format documents. Traditional format documents. Like this PowerPoint is a traditional format document. A person who is blind may not read it, but you are the student complaining of the lack of caption. So this center would address some of those challenges. So who would be served by the multimedia center? We would serve all disabilities. I don't even want to risk to take the risk of naming, because disability itself has no exhaustive list. So, but safe to say all disabilities, and the ones you may see on the slide are just some of the examples of the disabilities we have encountered here at campus. So I wanted also to say that from our experience of the small center we have, some of the equipment that we will need are, of course, laptops and smart boards and interactive whiteboards. And then there are really some specific or specialized ones, like for those who are blind and those with low vision. You heard Binasali talk about the focus blue Forte Braille display devices, scientific talking calculators, tactile view design software, and others. And then there are those that are useful for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, those with physical disabilities. And I think a 3D printer may not wait until we upgrade this center, braille box embosser and handheld magnifiers. So we have identified a long list of these essential devices with the guidance from the World Health Organization's list of essential assistive technology devices. And these are just some of the estimated costs depending on our capabilities and so on. Before I go to the next steps, I wanted just to say we do already have this center. It's not coming in as new. What we're proposing is an expansion, an elevation of this center into maybe a one-stop assistive technology center. And with the little that we have, we are already able to serve all faculties at the university. So students with disabilities who would need reasonable accommodation of any sort, we provide it at no cost to the faculty, even though faculties are vote holders. But we serve you at no cost to you, which is very important. And then we also provide what we call technical assistance services on request by other institutions, including MDAs and civil society. We train also on request. Actually, last month, we received a special request from Somalia. An organization of persons with disabilities wrote to me an email, and when they came here, we trained them for 5 days, and they said they're coming back with a bigger request. I also got a request from Kenya through friends in the US who recommended them to me. They want us to train their staff in personal assistance services. So what I want to say is that Kyambogo, we have a long track record, and we are a willing inclusion leader. We are not selfish. We are willing to support you. I was disappointed last year when one of the institutions I am not going to mention proactively reached out to me and requested that we go and train their staff and management on disability inclusion. They made me develop a training program, and it collapsed at the enforcement because they were not willing to commit the financial side of the training. So I wanted to say that disability inclusion is not necessarily to be understood as expensive, but it does have some costs, which you should be willing to commit to. So, Robina, next step in establishing this step is we need to refine the concept, the ideation. We can co-create this with the faculty. We sit down, we come up with a sharper concept note, which we can market, not just to government, but to other external and internal partners. And then we can enhance what we have. We train and sensitize the staff and students' body give them orientation. And of course, we want you to know that when we do this, you're not benefiting a joke. I'm left with the 10 years to exit this campus. Okay, yeah, I'm not quite young as I look. I'm left with 10 years to exit this campus. But if you create a one-stop assistive technology center, it will benefit generations. So none of these ideas is for Robina or for Ojok or for Katunguka. It's for the nation. And that's why I needed to talk Robina when Chris was still here, because he's the one who should go to cabinet and champion this thing. And he needed to hear the details, but still, and also the media has left. So we are basically talking with ourselves, and that's not bad. Okay, we can still be ambassadors. So this center will have a multiplier effect for the nation. So it will be in Kyambogo University, but it will not just be for Kyambogo University only. We will be able to reach out to thousands of Ugandans through this service. You don't know how many Ugandans come to our offices at the faculty completely stranded about where to go sometimes. And we struggle with these things in-house. So when our capacity is enhanced, we can also be able to support Ugandans in the quest for social justice and education. I think that is what I could say. And yeah, that is what I could say. Thank you very much. And you are invited to add more ideas on this emerging concept. We wait for you in November. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patrick. May we clap for him harder? Thank you. At this opportune time, allow me to invite Dr. Dennis Sekugao, Dean, who is a mentor in this research, to give a vote of thanks as we are almost ending. Doctor, you are so much welcome.
Thank you, MC. So, dear participants, allow me to take this opportunity to thank everyone that has participated in this dissemination workshop. And I believe we have got a lot, we have learnt a lot, and the feedback and also the recommendations or the comments that we have got are going to help us to further improve what we are doing at Kyambogo University. Now, there is one issue that I would like to point out from the talk of Dr. Ojok Patrick. I think he has recognized the interdisciplinarity of the research that we are doing here at Kyambogo University. And when you look at what Dr. Namleme has carried out, one would think and feel that maybe this is a research that is supposed to be done by people in special needs, in the faculty of special needs. But for us in the School of Computing and Information Science, normally we look at development of systems, information systems. And when you look at the kind of devices and tools that special needs people are using, these are devices and tools that are developed by people in computer science and information technology. So I really believe that there is a need for this collaboration, for this interdisciplinary nature of our research. And also allow me to point out that Dr. Namleme's research is not the first research that combines special needs with computing. And at this point, I would like to recognize Dr. Kanabe Frederick. Can you please stand up for recognition? Okay, so that is Dr. Kanabe Frederick, who is the head of the Department of Computer Science. And actually, he was the pioneer researcher in this area because he got funding from the International Telecommunication Union. He wrote a project about assistive technologies for vulnerable groups in Uganda. And this was a project that we carried out with the colleagues in South Africa. So there is also a publication about that. So you can see that the School of Computing is really involved in special needs education. But for us, we are playing the other role of helping to develop systems as far as assistive technologies are concerned. Now, I think we've got a lot of things that are highlighted from Namleme's research. And she has identified a number of barriers which higher institutions, universities, or libraries need actually to look at. And also there is the other issue of the implementation. And I think when the minister was also here, he hinted about it. That times the universities we come up with the researches, but maybe they just remain in our drawers. Yeah, they may not be properly implemented so that the policymakers can actually use them, okay, to make these different policies. So that is also something that we also need maybe to look at. How do we disseminate these findings to the policymakers so that they can get something out of the different researches that we are doing? So colleagues, I don't want to waste your time. I think I know we are all tired, but allow me to recognize the representative of the Director of Research and Graduate Training for Kyambogo University, Dr. Evelyn Isingoma. Can you please stand up for recognition? So that's the Deputy Director of Research and Graduate Training for Kyambogo University. So may I also request, let me request Dr. Namleme, maybe you are going to give us a closing prayer, and also you will pray for the food we are going to have. So colleagues, thank you so much, and I pray for journey masters from our Creator as we go back to our different places. So thank you once again for coming, and have a blessed day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Dean and mentor in this project. Now allow me to use 1 minute to thank these participants. I don't know what I call them. Guests. I'm so sorry. These guests of ours, because they have really committed, came. We had to wait for the minister. Some of them came as early as 7 o'clock from Barara. Really appreciate. We can't take your presence for granted. So go well knowing that we really appreciate this and we don't take it for granted. We thank you very much. And let's look for more other research opportunities so that we can always continue working together. Because as Dr. Ojok has said, there's a lot more for us to work on and research on. I want also to thank the Dean for sparing his time. Deans are very busy. Dean Computing, Dean Special Needs, Directors, Director Research and Postgraduate Training, the team from Carnegie, the team from UNAB, the team from the library. I can't mention everyone, but I want to let you know that I'm really humbled by your coming, and really thank you very much for the valuable feedback. We promise that we're going to sit down on the drawing table once more to see how to incorporate this feedback where applicable, to make sure that we can repackage the findings in a way that maybe the ministry can take on to be able to consider facilitating digital inclusion in higher education. I want to request you now to stand up and then we'll pray. Dear kind Father in heaven, we thank you very much for your kindness, for being with us since the beginning of the day up to today. We thank you for the guests that you brought. We thank you for the deliberations that you have. We thank you for this important subject matter that you've put before us to make a small contribution. We pray that, Lord, you give us wisdom and understanding as we continue working on issues of disability inclusion, that all of us may be touched and think about ways in which we can research in this area or how we can contribute. We thank you, Lord, for the food that you've placed before us. We pray that you bless it to nourish our bodies. We praise this through Christ our Redeemer. Amen.
Thank you so much. Our dear guests, we have lunch, and there are some gentlemen standing here who will give you a coupon such that we are able to access our lunch. You're welcome, and please enjoy